Ever wonder why some movie villains stay stuck in your head while others are forgotten before the credits roll? Seriously, why are villains like Captain Smack or the Screenslaver boring, whereas Kitty Cat or General Kai remain unforgettable for years? It turns out there are about 4 main rules to follow to not write a boring villain, and the first is almost too obvious, yet people fail to take it seriously. In the beginning of Kung Fu Panda 3, Oogway is sitting in the air meditating and trying to get inner peace when a jade blade attached to a long chain comes flying right at him.
Inner peace. Now what?
But Master Oogway, being a boss in Kung Fu and all, just catches the blade with his fingers like it is a toy. Then another blade comes charging at him, and he has to jump into action. He twirls his staff and fights back, and that is when we see who is on the other end of those chains. Standing far away in the spirit world is a massive, scary-looking bull named Kai. He has a pair of giant horns and glowing green eyes. Voiced by J.K. Simmons, he sounds like thunder, mean and terrifying.
Master Oogway.
Kai has been stuck in the spirit world for 500 long years, and he's finally back for a rematch with his old friend Oogway. He has all these little jade charms hanging from his belt, and they're actually the souls of the masters he's defeated. By the end of this big fight, Kai manages to trap the wise turtle in his chains and take his power too. Now, when you think about that scene, what exactly stood out for you? Was it the way the green weapons looked as they whizzed through the air? Was it the deep, commanding voice of the bull? Or was it that awesome music that made him feel like a rock star? Hold that thought, and now let's look at this other scene. In Brave, Mor'du is first shown during a celebration. King Fergus and Queen Eleanor are hosting a feast for young Merida's birthday. There is food, laughter, music, and warmth. Then Merida shoots an arrow into the woods, and when she goes after it, strange blue wisps appear. They guide her deeper into the forest. When she returns, a bear named Mor'du soon disrupts the party. He is huge and frightening. Everyone panics. Fergus grabs his sword and Mor'du attacks. He bites Fergus's leg and disappears back into the woods. Now, think about Kai's first appearance and compare it to Mor'du's. Both are strong, both are dangerous, and both hurt people. But something feels very different between them. One fills the screen every time he shows up, whereas the other wanders in and out. And this is where the first lesson of not writing a boring villain shows itself. A villain must have a presence, especially one that is magnetic. Not just loud or whatever, but charismatic. A magnetic villain pulls your attention the moment they arrive. You do not have to be told they are important. You just feel it. Their voice, their movement, their timing, their attitude all work together to make you lean forward. You want to watch them even when they are doing something awful. Kai has that pull. Think about his music again. Most bad guys just have spooky music, but Kai has a song that makes him feel like a total badass every time he walks onto the screen. It makes his entrance feel special. Then there are his weapons. Most people in his world just use their paws or their feet, but Kai has those dual jade blades on long chains. He can swing them in big circles, use them to climb up mountains, or pull things toward him from far away. And then we have the bear Mor'du. While he's definitely scary, he doesn't have that same pull. Mor'du is a bit of a side note. He's just a big animal that pops up every now and then to growl at people. Because he can't talk and he doesn't have a cool theme song, we don't really get to love him. He feels like he's just there to be an extra problem for Merida and her mom to deal with. The real story is about a daughter and a mother learning to love each other. So the bear kind of feels like he walked in from a different movie. He disappears for such a long time that you almost forget he's the main bad guy. But having a poor presence isn't an excuse, because you don't even need to be in a movie for a long time to be unforgettable. Just ask Tamatoa from the movie Moana. The guy is a giant crab who lives in a dark place under the ocean, called the Realm of Monsters. You might think a giant crab living in the dark would be boring or just scary, but Tamatoa is a superstar. He's covered from head to toe in gold, shiny jewels, and all sorts of treasures because he loves being the center of attention. When Moana and Maui find his lair, he doesn't just try to eat them right away. Instead, he starts a whole musical performance. He sings a song called Shiny, and it's one of the most fun parts of the entire movie.
Shiny, like a trash of a sunken pirate wreck. Scrub the deck.
He is funny, he is mean, and he's super proud of how he looks. He made himself a work of art, and you can't help but enjoy every second he's on the screen. He proves that you don't need a lot of time to be iconic. You just need to have so much personality that the audience can't look away. So if you want to write a villain who isn't boring, remember the lesson of the bull with the jade chains and the crab covered in gold. Another lesson you should also remember is wrapped in something a little more complicated, which is why even big studios like Pixar miss it sometimes. When we were coming up with the other rule that makes a villain not boring, we started to think about Evelyn Dever once again. We felt that a better version of her would have her actions actually support her goal of making people stop depending on superheroes. For example, instead of creating obvious chaos that forces the heroes to save everyone, which just makes them look like stars, she could have quietly dismantled society's trust in them. She could have used clever, invisible ways to spread doubt, making the world question their loyalty and usefulness. She could have made heroes fail without them even realizing it, making the public wonder why they ever wanted supers back in the first place. But instead of challenging the heroes' core, she actually made them even more powerful. She basically turned Elastigirl into a giant, iconic hero that everyone loved even more. And then we get her real purpose. And this is where everything falls apart. Evelyn says she hates superheroes because her father died waiting for them. Now, she doesn't want people relying on heroes again, so she plans to render them illegal, except they were already illegal. And how does empowering these heroes serve that purpose? Anyway, her fuzzy and silly motivation makes her a truly boring, even annoying villain. So if you want to see a villain who actually has a sensible purpose, especially one that hits the heroes right where it hurts, you have to look at Kitty Cat, also known as the Phantom Bandit from The Bad Guys 2. Now, Kitty Cat has a lot of that magnetic presence we talked about before.
One last job, what you say?
But she has something even more dangerous, a reason for being bad that actually makes the hero, Wolf, doubt himself. You see, there's one thing to have a purpose, but that's not enough. The villain's purpose must challenge the hero's beliefs and their very core. It has to make the hero wonder, wait, am I doing the right thing? In The Bad Guys 2, Wolf and his friends are trying really hard to be good guys now. They want jobs, they want to be liked, and they want to fit in. But it's hard. People still look at them like they are scary monsters. Then comes Kitty Cat. She shows up to talk to them like an old friend. She tells Wolf a story about when she was a little kitten in school. She says her teacher would give lollipops to the good kids, but because she had sharp claws and teeth, the teacher never even looked at her. It didn't matter if she was being nice. The world had already decided she was a villain just because of how she looked. So she stole the whole bag of lollipops, and you know what? Suddenly, she had all the power. She tells Wolf, stop hoping and enjoy the lollipop. This is a reasonable purpose because it's based on something Wolf is feeling right then. He's trying to be good, but he's struggling to find a job or be accepted.
Yeah, got it.
Kitty Cat is standing there saying, "Why are you trying to follow their rules when they will never love you anyway? What if the bad life was your best life?" That is a scary question. It challenges Wolf's core because his whole journey is about trying to prove he's more than just a big bad wolf. Kitty Cat is basically a mirror showing Wolf a version of himself that has given up on being good. Her plan also perfectly matches her purpose. She wants to pull off the biggest heist in history, stealing all the world's gold from space. But she also uses her brains to frame the bad guys and leak a secret video of their friend Diane, showing the world that Diane used to be a criminal too. Unlike the screenslaver who accidentally made the heroes look like stars, Kitty Cat is actively destroying their reputations and forcing them to choose between their new good lives and their old bad ones. It's a real dilemma. So when you're thinking about how to write a villain, remember that they shouldn't just be doing bad things for no reason. Their purpose should be a big why that makes the hero stop in their tracks. It should be a reason that sounds almost right if you think about it too long. If the villain's plan helps them reach that goal in a way that makes the hero's life harder, you've got a winner. That is how you move from a boring villain to a legendary one. Another thing a villain needs to escape being boring can be easily overlooked, but it's as important as the story itself. Do you remember that scene in Toy Story 2 where Stinky Pete finally came out of his box? It's a moment that changes everything. Woody is standing there, looking at the TV, watching his old black and white self sing "You've Got a Friend in Me." He sees a little boy on the screen hugging a toy just like him, and suddenly he remembers who he is.
But none of them will ever love you the way I do.
He realizes that even if his arm is a little torn, and even if Andy will grow up one day, being there for his kid is the most important thing in the world. So he yells out for Buzz, ready to go home. He even invites Jessie and Bullseye to come along, promising them that Andy will love them too. Everything feels like it's going to be a happy ending, until Woody turns around to grab the prospector. But the box is empty. Suddenly, there's a loud clang. Woody and his friends turn around to see Stinky Pete, the grandfatherly figure they trusted, using his pickaxe to screw the air vent shut. He's out of his box, and he's not smiling anymore. He turns off the TV and admits he was the one who sabotaged Woody the night before. He tells Woody that they're going to that museum in Japan whether Woody likes it or not. When Jessie cries out that it isn't fair, Pete snaps. He yells about spending a lifetime on a dime store shelf watching every other toy get sold while he was left behind.
Off, and no hand-me-down cowboy doll gonna mess it up for me now!
This is the moment we realize that Stinky Pete is the dark reflection of the movie's biggest theme. You see, the heart of Toy Story 2 is the fear of being forgotten. This fear is a giant monster that sits on the shoulder of every character in the movie. Woody is terrified that because his arm is ripped, Andy won't want him. Jessie is heartbroken because her owner Emily outgrew her and left her in a box by the side of the road. But the way a villain makes a story great is by taking that same fear and making a different, darker choice. Stinky Pete is the perfect villain because he reflects the theme of being forgotten better than anyone. He was never loved by a child, not even for a day, while Woody is choosing to embrace a life that might end in a trash can just to feel love now. Pete is choosing to live forever behind glass where no one can ever hurt him. This is what we mean when we say a villain must reflect the theme of the story. If the movie is about the beauty of temporary love versus the coldness of forever, the villain should represent that coldness. Stinky Pete is a masterpiece because he's exactly what Woody would become if Woody let his bitterness win. Now, a villain like King Magnifico from the movie Wish wouldn't know anything about that. In Wish, the theme is about the power of dreams and how beautiful they are, but Magnifico doesn't really reflect that in a deep way. He starts off as a king who keeps wishes safe, which sounds like he's just a cautious boss. But then the movie suddenly turns him into a mean person who loves himself too much. This makes him feel like a guy who is cranky because people started questioning him. When Stinky Pete looks at Woody and says that children eventually destroy toys, he's speaking directly to the core problem of the movie. He is a walking, talking what if. King Magnifico, on the other hand, feels like he's in the wrong story. He doesn't represent the absence of hope or the death of a dream. He's just a gatekeeper gone mad. But with Stinky Pete, the stakes are much higher than just a fight. When he tells Woody that he'll spend eternity in a landfill if he goes back to Andy, he's trying to win the argument of the entire movie. Additionally, a great villain should be a warning. Pete is a warning that says, if you are too afraid of being forgotten, you will end up in a box, never truly living. Magnifico doesn't offer a warning like that. He doesn't represent a dark version of Asha's wish, he's just a narcissist who wants to be the only one holding wishes. The payoff here is simple. For a villain to be unforgettable, they have to be a mirror. Stinky Pete is a mirror for Woody. They are both old-fashioned toys. They both want to be valued, and they are both scared of the end. But while Woody chooses the risk of a broken heart, Pete chooses the safety of a cold museum. This makes the final battle at the airport feel huge. When they zip Pete into that backpack with the little girl who likes to draw on her toys, it's the perfect ending. It forces Pete to face the messy love he was so afraid of.
You like Amy. She's an artist.
Magnifico's ending doesn't have that same weight because he was never truly tied to the theme of the world's dreams. And because he doesn't mirror the hero's inner struggle, his big magical showdown feels a bit hollow. We aren't worried about the theme when we fight Magnifico, but who can blame him really? Everything about Wish was terrible to begin with. Anyway, let's talk about something else. Something that really makes a villain terrifying to the point that they are unforgettable and definitely not boring. So check this out. Which villain do you think really has power? The one who keeps bragging about it like Captain Smek in Home, or the one who barely talks but still controls the room like Hopper in A Bug's Life? The answer is what we're discussing next. You see, Smek walks around with a title, a fleet of ships, a staff, and a loud voice. He keeps reminding everyone that he is the captain. Hopper does the opposite. He shows up, says very little, and everyone freezes. That difference is the heart of real control. Now, to be fair to Smek, he's doing exactly what the movie wants him to do. He is meant to be funny by being fake and arrogant.
Thanks to my leadership skill, cowering, running, and pulling a skedaddle, we are safe.
But he can easily become a boring villain because he doesn't have real power. His fear leaks out of him in every scene, and we get tired of his cowering. He runs from the Gorg, hides behind rules, and panics the moment someone talks back to him. The movie even lets him become a DJ at the end, which tells you everything that Smek is a joke. His power only works when other Boov pretend to believe in it. The second O speaks up, the whole thing collapses. That works for comedy, but it also shows why villains like Smek never feel heavy. They shout about control because they do not really have it. However, if you want to see what true terrifying control looks like, you have to look at Hopper. The ants have accidentally ruined the food supply they were supposed to give to the grasshoppers, all thanks to Flick. Suddenly, the sky fills with the sound of whirring wings, and the grasshoppers move in like a scary biker gang. When they discover the food is not where it's supposed to be, they invade the ants' hideout. As Hopper lands, he doesn't start screaming or throwing a tantrum like Captain Smek would. Instead, he walks through the crowd of terrified ants with a lot of confidence. He's huge compared to them, and he just towers over everyone, looking around silently, his hands behind his back like a boss that he is. The silence is actually the scariest part. He knows he's in control because he can see the fear in their eyes. He waits, letting the tension grow until it feels like the air might snap. When he finally does speak, his voice is deep and loud, making the ants jump.
So where is it? Where's my food?
He blames them for the mess and demands that they gather twice as much food as before. He knows that if he keeps them scared, they will stay obedient. That scene tells you exactly how Hopper thinks. Fear keeps people small and busy. He does not need to stand there all year because he can leave, and the ants will still hear his voice in their heads while they work. His control stays behind. But Hopper isn't just scary to the ants. He is also a master at controlling his own team. Remember that famous scene in a bar where the grasshoppers are hiding out? Hopper is sitting on an upper level getting a massage, just enjoying his peace. Then his brother Molt comes up and starts talking about an idea the other guys had. They don't want to go back to Ant Island because they already have enough food. When Molt suggests they just stay put, Hopper gets quiet again. He advances towards Molt, and you can see the fire in his eyes. But then he decides to show the whole gang why they have to go back. He walks into the bar, and everyone stops talking immediately. He has their undivided attention without even trying. Hopper points out a jar full of grain lodged between some rocks. He starts a game, pretending the little grains are ants. He throws a few grains at his henchmen, Axel and Loco, asking if they hurt.
Is a puny little ant. Did that hurt?
Nope.
But then Hopper does something unexpected. He rips the lid off the entire jar. Thousands of grains pour out like a flood, burying Axel and Loco completely. The whole room goes silent as the pile of grain covers them. Then Hopper climbs to the top of the pile and explains the real secret. He knows that if one ant stands up to them, the whole colony might realize they outnumber the grasshoppers 100 to 1.
It's not about food, it's about keeping those ants in line.
That is real power. The one thing Hopper also does is remind us how a villain is supposed to be. Unfortunately, we haven't had his kind in recent years, but the release of Zootopia 2 suggests that we might soon start getting back to our classic villains. In case you're wondering who this villain is, go check out this video here.